Japanese jazz wouldn't have existed without Filipino musicians. Let me explain. You see, Philippines was a US colony from about 1898 to 1946, which means it was a melting pot of American culture. The jazz musicians from America taught Filipino musicians, who then went on to perform in ocean liners and in hotels across Kobe, Osaka, Shanghai, etc. These musicians would perfect the art of jazz and bring it to the Japanese shores in the 1910s, resulting in an exchange of musical culture. You had the famous Filipino jazz pianist Luis Borromeo, who was also instrumental in spreading jazz across Asia. Tokyo's nightlife was buzzing in the 1920s. As Japan's recording industry grew, the musicians started releasing local versions of great hits like My Blue Heaven, The Shake of Araby. And then in 1923, suddenly you had the Great Kanto earthquake, which meant that a lot of venues and musicians relocated to Osaka, which was the other cultural hub in Japan. There, the genre didn't just survive, but it thrived. By 1924, you had almost 20 dance halls that had opened up that was keeping jazz alive, even when the country was moving towards war. When authorities banned dance halls in 1927, jazz again found a way to adapt itself, this time into more smaller, intimate spaces. That's when Japan's first jazz kissa or jazz cafe called Chigusa came into existence. It opened up in 1933 in Osaka's Dotonbori district, which, by the way, was known as the Japanese jazz mecca. Somewhere in 1945, one of the attacks burned down Chigusa and it was then relocated to Yokohama. But jazz survived. The end of World War II completely reshaped Japan's cultural landscape, and jazz was at the heart of this transformation. With thousands of American soldiers now stationed in the country, there was suddenly a huge demand for live music. The soldiers wanted to be entertained, but there weren't enough American soldiers, and so they started hiring Japanese musicians and started training them. Japanese musicians had the opportunity to learn directly from the source. By the late 1940s and 50s, Japan entered what was known as the golden age of jazz. A new wave of homegrown talent started to emerge. You had artists like Sada Watanabe on saxophone, you had Masabumi Kikuchi on piano, who took what they learned and then transformed it into something uniquely Japanese. 1960s and 70s was a period of creative fusion for the Japanese musicians, and Japanese jazz didn't just stay in Japan, it started influencing the global scene. The legacy of Japanese jazz still exists through the Japanese jazz cafes or the jazz kissetens. There are lots of underground clubs as well that play only vinyl records, and you really see this appreciation for the genre in Japan. It also serves as a great example for, when culture borrows, it also finds a way to make it into something of its own.